In this short video, I'm going to be explaining what is the Euro Stoxx 50 index. I call this Europe's liquid stock benchmark. The short answer is the Euro Stoxx 50 index is a benchmark of 50 top Eurozone companies. It is a free float, cap-weighted index with a maximum weight of 10% on any one stock. Remember that the Euro Stoxx 50 index is a price return index, not a total return index. What that means is that when any of the companies in the index pay out a dividend, that is not included in the value of the index, and rather the change in the value of the index from one year to the next simply measures the average rise in price of the 50 companies in the index. Also worth keeping in mind is that the Euro Stoxx 50 index is euro denominated. All 50 companies trade in euros, and the index itself is valued in euros. When we look at the top 10 components of the Euro Stoxx 50, we see that these 10 companies, this 1/5 of the index, adds up to around 42.6% of the weight of the index. And these top 10 really represent a who's who of Eurozone companies. At the very, very top, we see the Dutch semiconductor company ASML. This is classified in the technology sector and makes up 7.9% of the index. And most of the rest of the top 10 are French and German companies, with names like LVMH, L'Oreal, and Air Liquide from France, and SAP, Siemens, and Allianz from Germany. These represent a fairly good mix of different industries, so we don't see much domination of just one sector or another, and we don't really see much domination of one country or another, but we will see that not all Eurozone countries are represented equally. When we look at the super sector weighting, basically the industry makeup of the companies in the Euro Stoxx 50, we see that 15% of the weight of the index is in technology. Now remember, about half of that is in ASML, and another 3-4% is in SAP. So those two tech companies weight heavily in the Euro Stoxx 50, but not quite as heavily as they would weight in another index like, say, the NASDAQ 100. The next 13.4% of the index is in consumer product and services companies. These are in names like L'Oreal, for example, or LVMH. And then 12.5% is in industrial goods and services. So overall, if we look at the top 3 sector weights, they're relatively well balanced. And overall, the Euro Stoxx 50 is pretty well spread across different industries and sectors. Not too top heavy in any one industry or sector, as you may worry about with some benchmarks. When we look at the country weighting, by far the biggest country exposure in the Euro Stoxx 50 as of now is France. And we saw that in the weightings of the top 10 companies, how many of those companies were French companies. The next 1/4 of the Euro Stoxx 50's weight is from Germany. So Germany is the second largest component in the Euro Stoxx 50. But as we will see, the Euro Stoxx 50 and the DAX 40 are very, very highly correlated. The Netherlands then makes up the next biggest component in the Euro Stoxx 50 at 12.4%, followed by Italy and Spain. So overall, there's pretty good representation across the major Eurozone economies, not all Eurozone economies, with France and Germany being the understandable top 2. As mentioned, over any short period of time, we should expect the Euro Stoxx 50 and the DAX 40 to be highly correlated. In other words, they will move up and down mostly together, mostly by about the same percentages, even though the Euro Stoxx 50 is only 1/4 German stocks and the DAX 40 is all German stocks. This particular chart is over a 5-year period, and we see that there are some periods where the DAX leads ahead by a little while, and then it comes back down, and the Euro Stoxx leads ahead. This will provide several trading opportunities for traders who want to, say, go long the DAX and short the Euro Stoxx, or long the Euro Stoxx and short the DAX, to try and capture these relative differences over intermediate periods of time. But overall, the two indices are very, very highly correlated, despite the fact that Euro Stoxx 50 has more France than Germany in it. If we were to compare across two sides of the Atlantic, the Euro Stoxx 50 compared with, say, the US's S&P 500 also move up and down together a lot on a day-to-day basis. But we can see over the past 20 years, there's been much more significant differences in how the S&P 500 has risen in value, while the Euro Stoxx 50 is at about the same level now as it was 15 years ago. This can largely be explained by the rise of the large US technology companies like Apple and Amazon, which has not been seen really in any equivalent level in the Euro Stoxx 50. Now, for traders who would like to take positions in, say, the S&P 500 versus the Euro Stoxx 50, there are clearly opportunities in either going long S&P 500 and short Euro Stoxx 50, who believe the last 20 years trend is going to continue, or long Euro Stoxx 50 and short S&P 500 for those who believe that the trend is going to reverse. So that has been the brief introduction to what is the Euro Stoxx 50 index. Join us in our next series of videos when we're going to be talking about futures and option strategies on the Euro Stoxx 50 index.